On Larry King Now, the assassination of Gianni Versace star Édgar Ramírez.
Penelope, Ricky, and I mean, we're the three of us are Latin, and we're close to these characters, you know? I mean, we understand their universe. And if there's something that unifies Latin people as a culture, is how comfortable we are at expressing emotions. Ryan has a very fine talent, which is the ability to find stories that are both dramatically gripping, interesting. They're stories that by themselves you want to watch, they're intriguing, but at the same time, they touch a nerve. I've never seen my heritage as an obstacle. If anything, I've seen it as an advantage. But of course, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of inclusion. And media and content need to reflect the diversity of our lives.
Plus, tell me what is going on in your home country.
I think basically it's one of the most recent examples of how you can use democracy to dismantle democracy.
Did that happen in any democracy?
In any democracy.
You fear it happening in America?
Well, I mean, it's there's signs.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is Édgar Ramírez, the Emmy and Golden Globe nominated actor known for his roles in Bright, Gold, Girl on the Train, Joy, and Zero Dark 30. Édgar is a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, had a career working for non-governmental organizations before turning to acting full-time. He stars as Versace himself in The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story. The limited series airs Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on FX. We did a lot of shows in my days at CNN on the Versace murder. I knew the area very well. Did you follow it in Venezuela?
Yeah. It was. I mean, Versace was the first true global celebrity designer. You know, he started that culture, and by the time he was assassinated, he was already a global icon.
Audition for the part?
No. Ryan called me, Ryan Murphy, our showrunner and producer. He called me up and presented the project to me, and I said yes.
Had you worked for him before?
No, but I'm a huge fan. I really liked his work since Snoop Talk. I've been following his work and his. I mean, Ryan has a very fine talent, which is the ability to find stories that are both dramatically gripping, interesting. They're stories that by themselves you want to watch, they're intriguing, but at the same time, they touch a nerve. I mean, they're stories that have a sense of zeitgeist. He kind of touches on subjects that are relevant socially and culturally.
Terrific role for you.
Yeah.
Makeup was it?
Makeup was a process. It was the first time that I worked with prosthetics, and that was a challenge at the beginning.
Also the challenge of speaking English with an Italian accent, and you're Venezuelan.
Yeah. That was part of the whole experience to tap into that world and that sensitivity. And I mean, Penelope, Ricky, and I mean, we're the three of us are Latin, and we were all raised Catholic, and we're close to these characters, you know. I mean, we understand their universe, and if there's something that unifies Latin people as a culture, is how comfortable we are at expressing emotions. And I think that is the Latin element that unifies us as a culture.
Did you like Gianni Versace?
Yeah, I think he was a disruptor, and I think he was a very interesting man. I think that he was an artist that chose or he chose fashion design as a field of expression, but given the tools and given the opportunities, he could have been, you know, an artist in any other field. Actually, he wanted to be a composer, a music composer, but his mother was a seamstress in Italy, so he grew up in a workshop, and that was a craftsmanship that was very easy for him, so he took that.
Does this movie deal with homophobia?
It is basically the underlying theme of the whole story. Because that's
Johnny was homosexual.
Yeah, he was gay. Actually, he was the first high-end fashion designer that came out publicly. So his life was all about disrupting. He came from southern Italy, and he made it in northern Italy. Where there is and there still is a very big prejudice and bias against people from the South, and he broke through. He built that company. The thing is that up until Gianni Versace broke into the business, sexuality and glamour, they weren't married. I mean, he was the first designer that understood the marriage between these two. And he understood the rundown element and the sexuality of the 70s and the opulence and the amount of money and the desire of lusciness of the 80s. And then he married the two in the 90s, and everybody went crazy. I mean, he was a designer for the time.
The Versace family said that the work is a work of fiction. Are you upset by it? Or?
No, not at all. I mean, I understand. I mean, we all have to think that, we'll have to remember that the Versace family, they went through one of the most horrifying experiences that a family can go through, and it all happened in the public. I mean, it all happened in the public eye. So which adds a whole different element to it. Our show is based, just as O.J. Simpson, The People versus O.J. Simpson was. Our show is based on a book written by Maureen Orth, a female independent, very respected journalist. We stand by her in her reporting.
Our guest is the star of the Assassination of Gianni Versace, Édgar Ramírez. Up next, we'll discuss his international roots and his early path to becoming a diplomat, plus some politics. Stay with us. We're back with Édgar Ramírez. He stars in The Assassination of Gianni Versace and the American Crime Story. It airs on FX Wednesdays at 10 p.m. You were born in Venezuela. Your father was a diplomat?
My father was a military attaché, and some sort of like a military diplomat. So we traveled a lot, when I was a kid, and grew up in different places.
You speak 5 languages?
Yes, I do. Yeah. So
some people say you have different personalities in different languages. Do
That's
you?
True.
Yeah?
It's true, yeah.
So what am I getting now? You're English?
This is I don't know. I mean, I spend so much time speaking English now that I think that it's there's no difference at this point. But yeah, the sounds, they change you, and also there's languages are located in different parts of your body because of the amount of air that you use. So you need more air for English, and especially for American English, because the pronunciation is more elongated, so to speak.
What was the hardest language to speak?
To learn German.
Because?
Yeah. Because it's more complicated. The grammar is very difficult. It's very specific. And if you want to speak it well, then it's more complex.
Why'd you learn it?
Because I lived in Austria.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had to.
You wanted to be a diplomat?
Yeah. I wanted to. That's what I thought I was going to.
So how did the acting come in?
I was in my last year of university, and I was in charge of the international promotion of a movie festival that we had for students in my university in Venezuela. So we were traveling to different countries to present the festival and invite the student filmmakers to send their movies. And then, long story short, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to be in one of his, films, like one of his short films. It was an experimental film. And then I said, yeah, I mean, let's do it. And then it turns out that the movie got selected in the festival, and it got awarded at the festival. And by the time that happened, I had become friends with one of the jurors, who was Guillermo Arriaga, a Mexican writer. He wrote Amores Perros and Babel.
So he put you in?
Yeah, 21 Grams. And then he saw me. He saw me at the closing ceremony and said to me, "Édgar, you didn't know that you were an actor?" And I said, "No, I didn't know either. I'm not an actor. I mean, I did this for my friend." And he said, "You know what? There's this movie that I'm writing and co-producing in Mexico. I think that it would be great for you to meet the director, and I don't know. I think there's a part for you that could be great." And then I said, "Okay, let's try to do it." But I was doing my thesis. I was supposed to go to The Hague to work to do an internship there. That was like my whole other life. So long story short, 2 years later, I'm already working at this NGO in Venezuela, and he came back to Caracas, but this time he wasn't coming from Mexico, he was coming from Cannes, and the possibility that he had offered me was Amores Sparrows. That was the film that created a whole, that basically put, Latin American cinema back on the map in a very strong way. He had offered me the possibility to be in that film, and he didn't offer the film to me. So that's how I decided to become an actor.
Wow.
I mean, to try. I decided to give it a shot, and then I'm still.
Tell me, if you can, what is going on in your home country? As I told you before we started, I interviewed Chavez when he attended the UN conference, and I found him, because that question about his politics, but boy, he was dramatic, engaging.
Yeah, charismatic.
He'd have been a successful
as all
politician.
Populists are.
Yeah.
So that is in the book of the Uber populist. You have to be charismatic and
What's
warm.
What's going on in your country now?
It's basically, I think basically it's one of the most recent examples of how you can use democracy to dismantle democracy. That's basically, in a nutshell, what I think is
Is democracy run wild?
Yeah, it's democracy. It's how, the thing is that democracy is not the perfect system, because there's no perfect system, but it's perfectible, so to speak. Democracy is born, dies, and is born every day. That is the beauty of democracy.
We are not a democracy. We're a republic.
Yeah.
We have representative.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is Venezuela?
Well, we were supposed to be a democracy for many years. I was born in a democratic system, also with representatives. And basically, when Chavez got in power, he started a process of dismantling democracy, of somehow kidnapping institutions, step by step, until we got to the place that we're now. Right now it's basically a modern dictatorship, where there's no guarantees for anything. There's no transparency.
Could that happen in any democracy?
In any democracy.
You fear it happening in America?
Well, there's signs. When you start, and it starts with words. It starts with either changing the meaning of words, or either trying to diminish the meaning and the impact of words. And when you start infusing words with certain meanings, when you start also to take the importance of words, then that's how it starts. When you start to say that media lies, that media is your number one enemy, that is the number one enemy to the people of the country. When you start to infuse the conversation with those kind of like viruses, so to speak, then that's where it starts. Words are important, especially when you hold office. When you're in a position of power and guidance, your words are very important.
Catchphrases.
Yeah, that's how it starts.
Coming up, we're discussing secret talents, big risks, and diversity in Hollywood with Édgar Ramírez, and we'll be right back. With Édgar Ramírez, he stars in The Assassination of Gianni Versace. The limited series airs Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on FX. You were recently in a Harvey Weinstein film, Hands of Stone.
Yeah, well, he distributed the film.
Did you get to know him?
Yeah, yeah.
Were you surprised at all the things that have happened to him?
I think that a lot of us were surprised. I didn't have a close relationship with him. We shared dinners, and of course, all the social gatherings that involved the promotion of a film. And it was very difficult for many of us. The people from the movie, to anticipate the magnitude of all the abuses that he's committed. I know him a long time. Yeah. How do you feel about it?
Sad.
Yeah.
He's a great promoter and a great producer.
And he's got great taste for films.
Yeah, he did.
But it was horrifying. It was horrifying, but at the same time, I think that the conversation is here now, and I think that is a conversation that is not going to stop.
You favor the Me Too movement?
I favor any movement that gets us closer to transparency, and I think that transparency is very important.
Oscar nominations pretty diverse this year.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
You'll be up.
It's a sign of the times.
Your career is zooming.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any roles, by the way, ever close to you because Latino?
Close to me? No, not really. No, I've never seen my heritage as an obstacle. In Hollywood, or actually, if anything, I've seen it as an advantage. Yeah. You know, I think that ethnic background and cultural background. How do I put it? For example, if I'm going to play, if the character is an Irish priest, of course I'm not going to be the first one up to it. You know, but the priest could be changed and could be a Puerto Rican priest. You know, or a Venezuelan priest or an Argentinian priest, and then that's where I think. And that has been the experience for me. But of course, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of inclusion, and media and content needs, they need to reflect the diversity of our lives. And I think that is happening. Still a lot of work to do to include more and more people, and more ethnicities. But basically what is happening right now is a reflection of what is happening in our society, and we have the responsibility to reflect in the content that we produce, the diversity that we live in our lives.
Well said. We play a little game of If You Only Knew.
Okay.
Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Well, I'm going to say the first one that came up to my mind, Brooke Shields.
Not bad. Secret talent?
Horseback riding, yeah.
Guilty pleasure?
First one that came up to my mind, I love to binge watch series very, very late at night and just go to the kitchen, get something out of the fridge and put it in the microwave. Fun. Yeah.
What's the weirdest job you ever had?
Before I became an actor, I was executive director of an NGO in Venezuela that designed communicational campaigns to foster democratic values among young people. That's what I did. It was called Dale al Voto, something similar to Rock the Vote. And then when I stopped doing that and was transitioning into becoming an actor, then I did all type of different jobs. And one was this kind of like attaché translator / driver for people who would come to Venezuela to either do business or shoot movies. And then if they needed somebody to translate, then I would do that. But I would also, I had a car at the time, so I also gave the service as driver. And I would also, because I'm very organized with my with my schedules and all that. I was also like keeping a schedule for. So I was kind of like a personal assistant / translator / driver.
Like a gopher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's the biggest risk you've ever taken?
I mean, in the most general terms, I think that becoming an actor with no background, with nothing. I mean, I'm the first actor in my family. No, actually, the second one. The first one was my cousin, but we made the jump at the same time. Yeah.
Who would you trade places with for a day?
With you, I would love to go back to interviewing people. I would love to ask you many questions, actually.
Someday you'll host this show.
That would be great.
Would you like to host it one day?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to. I take up on it. Yeah.
Hey.
Work on it. I would love to.
Tell everybody.
I would love to.
What is something you wish you were better at?
Sometimes I procrastinate. I would love to be less of a procrastinator. Yeah.
Last time you were starstruck?
At the Golden Globes. Yeah.
Something you're afraid of?
Death.
Me too.
Yeah.
What's the best compliment you ever got?
That I believed that it was possible. Yeah. I was talking to these actors, these friends in Venezuela, actors friends, and then they told me something beautiful about my career as an international actor. They said, I think that the thing that really sets you apart is that you believe in the possibility. So maybe being an optimistic.
Édgar will answer your social media questions in our final segment. The Assassination of Gianni Versace airs Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on FX, and we'll be right back. We're back with Édgar Ramírez. A couple of social media questions. 505-Dan. Question, are you hopeful about the future of Venezuela? We are getting near no return path of misery and corruption with aberrant results.
What do I mean, I'm an optimist. So yeah, I think that there's still a lot of work ahead of us. The situation is very complicated. It's very complex, very, very. But yeah, I think that I cannot. I mean, countries don't disappear. They don't go away. So I'm hopeful, and I keep my faith that we will come out of this. That we'll come out of this dark hour.
Do you have a constitution?
We have a constitution that is being illegally amended as we speak. In a constitutional assembly that was illegally elected and arranged. So yeah, we still have a constitution, and I support the constitution that was legally approved and elected. Although I did not vote in favor of that constitution at the time, but it was a fairly elected and fairly approved constitution.
Chris Ravi, you've worked with several legendary directors. What kind of directing style brings out your best work?
The good one, I think. I mean, I'm very open to. I'm very directors driven. That's true, and I'm very old school. I do trust my directors, and I think that when you sign on a project, you're there to realize the vision of a director, and I trust them. So some directors they give you a lot of information, they give you a lot of guidance, they're very specific, even with voice tone and everything, and there are other directors who want to be surprised, and they're almost like voyeurs. I mean, they're behind the camera just watching you, and exploring, the context, and both work for me.
You're easily directed then.
I want to think that way. Yeah, I mean, my directors would be more keen to answer that. But yeah, I'm very collaborative with my directors because I really trust them.
You've gone from a life of being surrounded by intellectuals to being surrounded by creatives. Mm-hmm. Right? Do you prefer one over the other?
I think that there's a fair amount of intellectuals in the movie business as well, and many intellectuals that I've met are very creative. So I think that they're not antagonistic. I think that there's no like one bag of intellectuals and another one of creatives. Throughout my career, I've met some of the most interesting people, and I think that that's one of the privilege. One of the biggest privileges that my career has given me.
You're skyrocketing, and you deserve it.
Thank you very much, sir.
You will host this show.
I will host the show. Yeah, I would love to do it. It would be an honor to do it.
Édgar Ramírez. Thanks to my guest, Édgar Ramírez. The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American crime story, airs Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on FX. You can find me on Twitter at Kings Things, and I'll see you next time.